All right, welcome back to the 17th episode of this frame swap project. So if you haven't already, go back and watch some of those other parts, get caught up to where we are now. But in this episode, we start by fixing the tailgate. We get the entire bed and the tailgate clear coated. We finish the entire front end. We got the fenders on. We got the mirrors on. And we also completely rebuild the vent windows and get those placed in. We also reinstall the door panels on the interior, so the inside is basically completely done now. So we're getting so close to being able to register this and drive it on the road. I think next episode we'll be driving this around and really enjoying it for what it is. So thank you for everyone who stuck around and watched. I really appreciate all the views and comments. So we'll go ahead and jump right into this one. Thanks, guys. The next thing I want to work on is getting this tailgate to operate correctly. So here's what we need to weld back together. Separating from these spot welds, I'm going to take off this tailgate and clamp that down, weld that back together, change out the trunnions in here. Basically little bushings that will keep that up, and then we'll line everything up here, maybe scrape off a little bit more of this rust and just try to get this to operate nice how it was designed, because we want the truck to look old but we want it to operate as new, and that includes the tailgate, all the doors and everything like that. So the problem right now is when I loosen this, it's just spinning that piece in there, so I'll probably have to cut this out. Don't think it's supposed to look like that. So I want to fix up this tailgate today. You can see this definitely needs to come up and in quite a bit, so I can re-weld it here and re-weld this into here. So the only way I can think to do that is to use this ratchet strap and try to pull this into there. So let's see if this works out. It's pretty close. I think that's about as good as it's going to get. Just going to clean up all this stuff where I'm going to be welding, and then clamp it down to get some welds onto this section here. Okay, just going to throw some welds on here and hopefully it stays. Actually, I need to get a clamp. Well, it's about the best of my abilities that I can get this. So at least it is lined up here now. I was going to fix this, but I don't really feel like it, I guess. But this is pretty much straight here now. I think that'll work. It's better than it was, I'll tell you that much. I'm just going to go ahead and clean up in here where that trunnion goes a little bit, and then this should be ready to go back on once that stuff comes in the mail. Well, it wasn't easy, but I was able to get these doors mounted up and pretty good as far as alignment goes. It's not perfect because these doors are pretty messed up, honestly. If the gap's good here, it's like bad here, and I'd mess around with it for probably like 2 hours. But this is as good as it's gonna get. The door opens nicely, closes, pretty nice. So I'm gonna say that's good enough. Don't really have many tips for this other than make sure you put all three, like keep all three bolts loose, but put all three in so it lines up that little like cage nut that's inside here. Because there's one time where I had it like perfectly with just the one bolt, but then I couldn't put the other two in because the holes weren't lined up. So just start out by just putting all three bolts loosely in tighten them down as you go, and just, it's a lot easier if you have two people. I was able to get the other one done by myself, but my wife was able to help me get this one on. So that's pretty much all good. Like I said, the gaps aren't perfect, maybe a little bit tight on the right side, but as much as I've messed with it, this is about as good as it's gonna get. Here's the passenger side door. Opens, closes. What more can you ask for out of a door? So we are going to go ahead and move on to the fenders now, which is pretty exciting. Get those out of the garage and onto the truck here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mess around with that now. So this might be a little challenging. Should be able to get these on. I'm actually waiting on, just realized I'm waiting on these fender bolts to come in. I have the old ones, but they're rusted. Okay, just kidding. I do have the bolts for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to line this up in here. Well, I'm just gonna struggle getting some of these bolts in here for a little while, and then I'll check back in once we have this kind of where it should go. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's just see how that looks with the hood closed real quick. Looks good enough. Put this one missing puzzle piece back on here. Lena! See if we can get Lena to go into the shade. She loves sitting out here in the sun and just cooking, and then she gets too hot. Come on, go to the shade. Good girl. Go to the shade. That's not... Come on, go to the shade. Good girl. A little bit further. Good girl. You know what shade is. Take a quick break from the fenders to finish painting these little washers that go on the vent windows. I just love spending time painting stuff that literally nobody will ever see. All this stuff is inside of the door. Why am I like this? All right. Get back to the fenders and stuff. All right, this is the last piece for the passenger side front end. It's a pretty gnarly gap there. Just gonna mess with the gaps a little bit. Well, here's kind of the first look of the front end on. I think I can bring the hood down a little bit. That will make this line up a little bit better and close this gap here. And the gaps on this are not gonna be perfect. I mean, it's all old sheet metal and whatnot, but I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's good enough. We're going for that 10-foot away look anyway. So from back here, looks pretty good. Just gonna throw that tire back on and then go ahead and do the driver's side, and we'll have the entire front end done. Be a big accomplishment there. Okay, just gonna do the driver's side now. I'll just time lapse all this stuff so you don't gotta watch me struggle that much. Looks pretty good. Got a pretty monster gap here, but this gap looks really nice. See, that's what I'm saying. Like if I guess I could split that difference a little bit, move this up a hair, but probably will actually, but it's just like when I get one gap right, the other one kind of gets messed up. Man, I really need some nice wheels for this, but so expensive. Well, that'll be down the road. Get some nice wheels for it. I think that'll really set this off. But there it is. The front end is completely on. Okay, I'm going to be rebuilding these vent windows now. I already took apart the first one, so I'm just going to quickly go through on this one. I'm going to start by flattening out this little locking thing here. And I made sure I soaked all this stuff overnight. Hopefully this nut comes off. These aren't even the original ones. The original ones were too rusted and this bolt snapped off. So I had to buy different ones to try this again. So hopefully this comes free here. Feels like it's coming off. Okay. Now I saw something that says you should keep these on a zip tie to keep it all in order. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that also. Put that there. Then this one. Okay, so now that part's done. There's a couple of rivets we need to get off. There's 3 rivets to get this off. 3 rivets and 1 screw actually to get this portion, this window portion off of this straight frame here. So the screws up here at the top. Hopefully this comes loose. It is. I found the best way to get the rivets off is just use this Dremel, this little cutoff wheel, and just grind the top off of them and then smack it out with a punch. So we have the first 2 I'm gonna get off are right here. Okay, got that one out. Got 1 more in here. This one's a little bit harder to get with this little grinder. Let's see if that works. Okay, that came off. There's just 1 more here. Okay, so that gets it off of that frame, and then there's 1 more here that holds it's like the hinge point here, so we have to grind off this one also. The glass came out of this frame on this one, so now we can pull this frame out. There's 2 washers that go like in between here. So the glass should still be in here. So we'll have to figure something out with that. We can take off this little knob. It just has a little push pin, which this one's almost all the way out anyway. There it is. Pull that off. Should be a little washer under there. Guess this one didn't have it. So anyway, that's the frame off. Did not take that long to get the other one off. Now we just have to peel out all this old rubber from this portion here. Okay, that's out. That was a lot harder to get off on the first one I did, so this has 4 rivets we need to get off of here. Use a Dremel on the first one, but the grinder might be better to get through this rubber on this side here. Okay, then this whole piece comes off, and that's trash. Now everything's torn down. I just have to scuff everything up and paint it. Okay, so now we have both windows broke down into their 3 parts. We have this long piece here, and we have the 2 portions of the frame. So I'm just going to scuff these all up with some Scotch-Brite, paint it with rust paint, and then paint it gloss black. And then we can work on reassembling it. I might need to get some glass setting tape to get those to seat back into here. And then also I think there should be some kind of gasket of sorts that goes into this groove. So I'm going to look for that because I definitely do not have those parts. Just going to scrub it down with some soap and water right now. Alright, just gonna go rinse this stuff off. So I'm in the process of redoing the vent windows. I already did the driver's side one and it was not easy. So hopefully I learned a couple things doing that one, so this one will go a little bit more smoothly. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some glass setting tape around the edge of this glass here, and then we're gonna hammer it into this frame. I will leave a link to the glass setting tape in the description. I don't remember right now what thickness it is, but we're just gonna make it a little bit longer. Definitely want it longer than shorter because we're going to trim it after. Go ahead, snip that, and then I'm going to use some pieces of black electrical tape to hold it down. And you probably do want to use black because when we trim this, a little bit of this is probably going to be left, and you might be able to see it if it was a different color. I'm just going to get a nice little piece here. I'm basically just folding that right in half over the window and putting a piece of tape there to hold it down. Okay, I'm just going to keep doing that all the way around, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, that should be pretty good. Just hold it on there. And then now we're gonna slide this into the frame. And when we put it in, we're gonna be getting this corner in first. So it helps if we just spray a little bit of this glass cleaner on here and on the bottom of this, just to help it slide in a little bit. So see, it kind of slid in pretty nice there. Just gonna tap it with a rubber mallet, get this corner in. Okay, I think I got that corner in pretty good. Now we're just going to get this edge in here. Seems to be in there pretty good. Okay, once it seems like it's pretty much level and as far in as it's going to go, we're just going to cut off that excess with a nice sharp razor blade. Do the same thing to the other side here. Okay, after that, we should have a nice window with clean edges that we cut off all that tape with. Now we're ready to move on to the next step here. So this part I think is the hardest part of the whole process here, is getting this rubber piece onto this frame. It has like a little groove that has to go into here, and it has to line up with a couple of different spots here. There's a spot there that has to line up here. So the way I do is spray down with a bunch of this silicone here, and then I use a bunch of zip ties holding it in place as I go around, and it's a pain. It takes a little while, but you'll eventually get it. Let's see if it goes any smoother today than it did yesterday. Okay, that looks pretty good on the bottom at least. So I think I got it up to here pretty good. Now I gotta work on this corner and all the rest of it really. Helps if you have a little plastic piece like this so you can push in the sides here. It also might be easier to come back to that corner at the end. That's what I did yesterday. I'll try to get this top portion in. Well, I think I might have actually gotten it on pretty quickly. This took me like 30 minutes yesterday, and today it took me 8 minutes. I think what helped is like getting a bunch of this silicone grease, spraying this down, sliding this part up to here first. Don't really worry about the corner, and then kind of line this up and push down as you get this side in. This whole side can go in pretty easily if you're pushing down like that, and then just focus on that corner at the end using something to kind of push it in and pry it along. But that seemed to work out pretty good. Okay, I think that is in all the way. Take off these zip ties now. So the next step is getting this weather stripping piece onto this part here and the raised edge. Here, I'll show you. So here is where the latch goes on, and this is the new weather stripping piece. It has this raised edge which goes against the raised edge of this here, and it comes with some real crappy rivets that you have to hammer in and everything. It just makes it so much harder. So I went ahead and I used this rivet gun that I got from Harbor Freight for like 38 cents. No, but it was like $7 literally. And I used these rivets here. I don't know what size they are, but they come in the kit with the rivet gun. So, and that seemed to work out perfectly. It just puts on so much easier than trying to bang down those other things. So once you have that done, the next thing we can do is put the window back in that frame. We're going to do that before we rivet that piece to this piece. So now I'm going to go ahead and put that window back in with these little washers and all that stuff that we painted up earlier. So to start with, we only need these two washers. We have a nylon one and this weird looking one that has a flat end. The flat end is going to point towards the corner of the window like this. So it's going to go in this way. So that's flat sides pointing towards the corner of the window. And you might have to drill out the rubber piece where it has the hole because wasn't punctured all the way through, but that's fine. So then go ahead and slide this piece through the hole down here. Got this washer, flat part facing the corner. That goes first. Then we have a nylon washer next. Then it comes through here. Then we have a second nylon washer on the outside. Then we have this slotted washer. Then we have the spring. We have the locking tab and then the nut. And then we make sure that the tab from the window is under the tab. First we can kind of line it up here. Make sure that tab is under this one. Now this one we do have to use the rivet that came with the kit because it has a little shoulder on it that lets it rotate. So this goes in from the top, and we'll need to find a piece of metal where this vise works for me. Have our little tool to mushroom out the head and a hammer. Okay, now it's time for the last step, just mounting this long piece here to here. They give you some rivets, but it's so much easier to use this rivet gun with 3 of these rivets. And then it has the 1 screw that goes in. Maybe I lost the 1 screw. Well, there's supposed to be 1 screw that goes in this way here, but it does have a rivet near there anyway, so maybe we don't need that one. So I will just go ahead and rivet this down. If we do come across it, great. If not, I guess we'll just see if this holds up. And then we have 2 rivets here. Okay, 1 more here. Now I just need to put this handle back on. Got a new handle for that. A little spring washer which goes down first, and then this handle goes on, has a little roll pin that goes in there. I did have to kind of drill this out a little bit on the other one because it's just not quite big enough. That's what she said. Okay, so now when it closes, should be able to lock it with that, just like that. That's pretty much it. We just have to tighten this nut down to see how much resistance we want here. So it's pretty loose, so we're tightening that down a little bit. So I'll just use the 1/2 inch down here, tighten this up a little bit here. We want it to open and close easy, but not flop around in the wind. Just a little more. Okay, that feels pretty good. Just lock that down, and that's it. Just have to bang down these little tabs. There we go. Today we are going to get this bed painted, well, clear coated, whatever, but I'm gonna go ahead and push that into the garage to get that painted up. And so before I do that, I need to get the 2 vehicles out of the garage. Just kind of funny because one is a Tesla and one is an open header V8, so it's quite different to move. Okay, and now for the slightly louder one. Fuel pump is louder than the Tesla. Just gonna try to get these chains off so they're not in the way while we are painting. Okay, got one off. All right, both chains are off. The last thing I want to do to this bed before we paint it is fix this piece here, how it's coming out. Need to clamp that down and weld it, and then we should be pretty much good for painting after that. I think I'll try to hit it with a hammer a few times and then clamp it down with the vice grips. Okay, just gonna try to get this welded up now. Okay, we kind of got that welded up a little bit and painted, straightened it out somewhat. Kind of hard to see out here, it's really bright, but it's a little bit better than it was. So we're gonna roll with that, and then we can get this thing clear coated pretty soon. All right, I am going to wipe this down with some alcohol before we spray it, and then we will be ready to go. Okay, we are going to try our best here and see what we can do. I think I'm about ready. Put my respirator on. We're gonna put the vent window in on this door and the window seals, door panel, all that kind of stuff. It's got those 3 screws in right now. Now I'm just gonna roll this window up a little bit here. Get it back in this channel. So now I can get this back channel in. The slanted part goes towards the top like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in these 2 lower bolts for the vent window. Okay, now I'm going to tighten the top 3 before I tighten down those bottom 2 there. Now I'll go ahead and tighten these down. Okay, vent window's in. Got this piece in here. Now I just need to go ahead and get that window seal in. So here's the window seal. This side has like a felt on it, and this side is just rubber. So the felt side goes on the outside. How it works is you kind of fold it in on itself. So when you fold it in, this is kind of how it sits in the groove, and then the window goes right in that middle part there. This isn't super easy. It's not that bad up to this corner when you have to get it into that lower groove that we just put in. So that's kind of annoying. So I'll spray some silicone in there. This top part isn't too bad. Just go ahead and get into it. So it's going to kind of fold it in half, shove it up in there. Just going to kind of get a little bit of silicone on this whole thing. Fold it in half, and then make sure it gets up against this part really good. And then we're just kind of folding it, pushing it in. Folding it down into here. Now when we get to here, we have to try and get it to go down into this window, down into here. It's definitely harder to get it into that lower groove. Okay, I was able to get that seal in there. So now I got the window, rolls all the way up, all the way down nicely. Got our vent window in here. So we're about ready to put on our door panel here, and have a little gasket that goes on there also. Just use a little bit of RTV here to hold that gasket on. Not a lot, just thin little bead here. Okay, I got this little seal here. Kind of don't understand this seal, honestly. It's like it only goes around the bottom part, so it just like it almost like protects water from getting in the bottom, but allows it in the top. But if water gets in the top, then it's like keeping the water in there, like not letting it come out the bottom. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, I just need to put the thingies on, door handles, oh, and the little gaskets. On the driver's side, the door handle is like really loose on there, and I think it's gonna be like that here too. It just sticks out so far. I'm gonna have to do something about that in the future because it's really annoying. See, that's on there pretty solid. It doesn't jiggle around. And the door handle, see how that one goes on. This one's a lot better. The other one, not so much. The other one jiggles around a lot. Anyway, that's what the door looks like done. I kind of went, these are the original door panels. I kind of went with a clear coat on these to try to match the patina on the outside. I don't really know how I feel about it. It's kind of like it gives some contrast, but they might end up getting wrapped in the same leather as the seat. It might look a little bit better, but I like it for now. Just gonna clean off the window and this portion's done. Okay, I'm gonna put this mirror on now. Okay, just need to tighten up these bolts here. Here's what the mirror looks like. I like these smaller mirrors better than the big ones that kind of hang down that this had. But see how it had this mount here? It doesn't have it on the passenger side. I don't know why, but there's nothing here. So I'm gonna have to try to drill that out. It's gonna be a pain, but I don't know why it doesn't have it on this side. Since the passenger side doesn't have holes for this type of mirror, it just has like 12 holes driven for that huge mirror that was here, I'm going to try and drill some holes here. Now I want to try to tap these, but it might just end up being bolts through with nuts on the backside, but I hope not, because I just now realized I'll have to take off the door panel again to do that. Okay, so hopefully we can tap these and we don't have to worry about doing that. If that's the case, then these holes almost have to be perfectly aligned. Okay. I'm gonna try to get this gasket off and replace it. Even though we're not using the tank in here, still want this gasket to look nice because I'm putting a cap here just to cover up the hole. Okay, got the old one out. Hopefully this new one goes in a little bit easier. Just gonna lube it up a little bit. Dang, did they really have to put the made in Thailand real big on the front there? Don't give me away that easy. So I don't have the original tank that this would screw onto, so my idea here is to epoxy this bolt to the backside of this gas cap and then use a big washer like this and then a nut on this side to hold it onto the inside of the cab there. So I'm just going to go ahead and epoxy that down real quick. Okay, I'm just gonna let that dry and see if it works. So it's the next day and this seems to have bonded pretty well to this cap. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to put that on so we can kind of plug up this big hole that is here. I think that worked out nicely. Well, it lasted about 5 minutes and then popped off. So I'm gonna have to try to do something else. I might grind down this plastic in the middle and then weld something in to this metal, and then that should do it. I guess I didn't hit record on this, but I did get this passenger mirror on. I was able to tap these all out and get that to bolt in just fine. So that's done there. So I think I'm going to stop the episode here. We have the bed completely clear coated. This is dried and cured. Just show you how that came out. I don't see any drips in anything that I did, so I think that came out really nice. It's really smooth, really nice. I think, like I said, we're going to stop it here. And on the next episode, I'm going to get this bed mounted back onto the frame, get the tailgate back on, finish up the lights back here, take it to the exhaust shop, take it to the alignment shop, and then it's going to be ready for the road. It'll be not done, but it'll be ready to drive around. Getting so close to being done with this. So thank you guys for sticking around. Really appreciate it. Catch you on the next one.